skirt. We all have the tops. Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday, August 26th Public Works Committee meeting. I'm Councilor Dr. Wright calling the meeting to order. Item number 1 is Fawn Fifi Martin, appointment to the Greater Tulsa Area African American Affairs Commission, replacing Donald Rose. Term expires May 1st of 2028. Ms. Martin comes from District 4. Is she here? Did I read all that? And she's not here. Okay. Well, we'll see if she comes later. All right. Item number 2 is Mayor Kathy Taylor, reappointment to the Tulsa Public Facilities Authority. Term expires July 31st, 2028. Attended 8 of 11 meetings. Mayor Taylor from District 9. Hello. Good afternoon. Well, we know who you are. Would you just share with us why you would like to continue on the TPFA?
I really have appreciated having the opportunity to continue to serve the city and help oversee some of the significant investments that the citizens have made in the BOK Center, the Arvest Convention Center, and One Technology Center.
Great. Any questions about, yes, Councilor Bingle?
Obviously, your work for the city has been just tremendous, so obviously we're all grateful for you to continue to serve. Thanks for raising her image by sitting next to her.
Pretty much that's the case, but thank you.
See, you're of service in many different ways.
Any other, yes, Councilor Archie?
Thank you so much, Mayor Taylor, for all that you do for the entire region. You all are working on the hotel motel.
Not TPFA isn't. I am helping chair a committee that is developing facts and around the proposed convention hotel that's, I think, the RFP went out on maybe
Yeah.
February of 2025. So I'm helping be the den mother to shepherd those facts to put together, so hopefully one day they can be at a point where they can be shared widely.
For sure. Well, thank you for the
So
work
we
that
can
you're
make a
doing.
wise decision.
So you can make a wise,
Yeah.
judicious decision in the best interest of the future of the city.
Great.
There you go.
Any other questions about TPFA or Mayor Taylor's reappointment?
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
continuous service to our
Yes.
city.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we won't belabor the point. Your confirmation vote will be on the 2nd of September. You're always welcome to join us, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you very
willing to
much.
step
Thank
up
you.
again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Ms. Martin, would you like to come to the table? Thank you. So, this is
It's
an
almost
appointment.
$6 million man, but it's not quite.
This is an appointment to the Greater Tulsa Area African American Affairs Commission that I read on item number 2. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to serve on this commission.
I actually came here to Tulsa about 2 years ago from Chicago through the Tulsa Remote Program. I actually work in e-commerce and procurement. When I was back home, I actually dedicated my time to advocating for abused women and children. When I got here, I volunteered for the Big Boys Center, Big Brothers and Sisters Center, and I found myself at the chamber with office space, saw that they needed a little help with things like entrepreneurship, setting up LLCs and things like that, and that's how I kind of found myself getting involved in all of this, so.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Martin?
Organically.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, who invited you, or did you just saw the need and?
It was Vanessa.
Okay,
Vanessa,
Councilmember Harper.
yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Just thank you for, I always appreciate people who, when they come into our community and just get so incredibly involved, so we really appreciate
Thank you.
that, it's really valued.
Okay, well, stepping up as a new Tolson, I'm a Tolson by choice myself, so thank you for engaging. We would bring you to the 5 o'clock meeting on the 2nd of September to confirm your nomination. You're welcome to join us at that time, it's not required. And if you would like to speak at that time, you will also be invited by our chair. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve, that's it.
All right,
Easy
thank
peasy.
We don't bite,
Yes,
The harder
you're
part was
welcome to
parking.
stay, but you don't have to.
not with the city attorney around.
Just a bark from Jack at the end there. All right, item number 4 is a resolution authorizing the sale of bonds, fixing the amount of bonds to mature each year, fixing the time and place of bonds, fixing the time and place of the bonds are to be sold, and authorizing the clerk to give notice of said sale as required by law for general obligation bond series 2026A in the amount of $65,660,000 with the emergency clause. And hello, Chad.
Good afternoon, counselors. Chad Becker from Treasury. It's GO bond season again. Here to seek council's approval for this resolution to authorize our sale that's in the par amount, as Chairwoman Dr. Wright noted, $65,660,000. We've structured that over 19 maturities. This is a combination of IoT2 and IoT3 funds. This is actually the 7th issue of the 2019 IoT2 authorization and the 6th issue of the 2023 authorization. We're forecasting rates to be somewhere in the range of 3.2 to 4.3%. True interest cost projection of about 3.85. That is based upon Bloomberg rates as of July 8th, and then we add 50 basis points onto that, as we do with most all of our issuances. The project list was included in the backup documentation, but it's largely streets projects, and then there's $10 million for PAC building infrastructure and their loading dock. We've set the sale date for September 16th. In the morning, and then we will be back before you that afternoon at this meeting to present to you the results of the sale. And then that evening, you all will vote to approve that sale. Then, as with all of our GO bonds, there's a protest period that will run until the end of October, and we plan to close this bond sale on November 3rd. So the requested action this evening will be for you all to authorize us to continue forward with this sale.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Becker? No? Okay, well, that was easy peasy, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5 is a change order number 1 to contract number 138799 between the City of Tulsa and Sherwood Construction Company for project number SW 2025-21 in the amount of $60,950 necessary for the installation and subsequent removal of a temporary asphalt trail to secure, safely reroute bicycle and pedestrian traffic around the active construction site in District 2. Hello, Mr. Zachary, are you bringing treats?
Yes, ma'am, Paul Zachary, Public Works. Last week,
These are
Councilor
under
Bingo
$50, right?
labeled me as the good humor man because of my white shirt. And I thought, I couldn't find the hat, but I thought I'd do the next best thing and at least bring
Oh, give
ice
it right.
cream.
You are welcome.
So
Hey
we
Shane,
can-
take note.
This is within our gift
Sorry.
acceptance
I knew my
policy.
second
Oh, no.
will pay off eventually.
Look at how none of us said no.
Well, why would we?
Right.
Zachary.
I mean, we're keeping it Oklahoma here.
Man.
Did we ever get one? All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Nicely
so
done, Mr.
much.
Zachary.
No problem. It's a
This
long
is-
day for y'all, so.
I feel like this is a first.
This is
It is a
this is
first.
even better than the Swedish fish.
I thought you were gonna start eating your lunch or something.
No.
I saw the napkins come
I didn't know
out.
what was happening
You know,
here.
Anthony took 2.
Look, I
He's got Counselor Hall Harper's, he's just protecting it.
Oh, okay.
All right, Mr. Zachary, tell us about this 60,000 and change order here.
Yes, ma'am. This is part of the West Berm project. It's on the west bank of the Arkansas River, just south of the refinery. That work is being rebuilt, and while we were doing that work, that parking lot was in such disrepair. We worked with River Parks Authority and some of the trail, and instead of us trying to protect it and only fixing a stripe down through the middle of it, we got excellent bids on this project. And for $60,950, since the contractor was already mobilized, we were able to build an entire parking lot over there. And that's what this change order is for. It's for some of the trail work and then also the complete construction of the new parking lot over there at the soccer field. So this is one of our ARPA projects. This will be burning the full $1 million of our money, and the balance of that is coming from River Parks Authority through an ARPA grant they got through the state, the OWRD. So we would recommend approval of this, and probably in the next month, we will have our final payment on this routed, and we will finish our $1 million ARPA gift from whoever from the city that we got it to do this project. So that's it. So we would just recommend approval of this change order.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions or,
Great job.
okay?
No, I'm busy right now.
What a boy. He's like, they can't ask questions if they're eating.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
here
Matt.
comes napkins
Thank you.
either.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we
Paul is
expect
very
this
considerate and thought of all of it.
every Public Works Committee now.
Okay.
set a precedent.
You've really set the bar for
Thank you
everybody
so much,
at the
Mr.
table.
Zachary. Item number 6, a resolution of the City of Tulsa expressing its intent to support the establishment and funding of an eviction prevention and legal representation program for low-income tenants and landlords. Sponsored by Councilor Bellis, and we have Miss Katie Dillis at the table.
You have chocolate syrup.
Hi, Katie.
So,
Sorry I didn't bring you ice cream.
Would you like mine?
yeah.
Okay.
Katie, why don't you tell us who you are, just so everyone knows at home?
Sure, I feel like I know most of you, but for the couple I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Katie Dilks. I'm the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Access to Justice Foundation. We are a nonprofit that works across the state to increase meaningful participation in a fair and accessible civil justice system. We've spent a lot of our time over the past several years working on eviction prevention and mitigation, and other type issues. So that is how I find myself working with all of you.
Yes, and as many of you know, this has been a bit of a long time coming. We'll go through a timeline and have a whole presentation going on for everyone. But I'll just name up front, when it comes to that civil legal access for both low-income tenants and landlords when they're facing eviction issues and challenges. Highly successful programming has existed in our community for quite some time around that. There's really just the need to scale it. And something that I've seen recently that's been brought to attention by various people that work in this space is actually that this is very high impact work, and we already know this, we see it across the country, we've seen it in our own backyard, but actually, like, instead of scaling the way it should, it's even been shrinking where we don't have enough attorneys working in the space right now, so anything we can do to bolster and support these initiatives scaling is really critical. And then I'll just really highlight, of course, this is a resolution, not an ordinance. It's really about laying out intention and ensuring that we're able to take a next step after a lot of time and due diligence has been spent to be able to go and engage external stakeholders and make sure that we're getting dollars and setting ourselves up for success. But we can kind of dive in. Just naming overall goals, of course, through us like really seeking to more formally establish a program, which I will highlight. I'm not saying we're setting one up within City Hall by any stretch. It's more about supporting and scaling existing work elsewhere. Is we're really seeking to reduce evictions, stabilize housing, and then of course supporting responsible landlords. There are people who are trying to do the right thing in our community and just don't always get access to the help or know how to navigate complex systems. And we also know that when someone actually has been evicted, it creates so many downstream challenges. And especially right now, we keep seeing people not be able to access affordable housing. So I will pass it over to Katie to dive more into the
Sure.
more of the why.
We're not gonna flood with data right now. I think you all have had some presentations in the past that have really sort of highlighted the impact that eviction has in our community, but we wanted to front a few of them just for this conversation. One is that Tulsa does experience fairly high eviction filing rates. Oklahoma is usually ranked about 6th in the nation for our eviction filing rates. Tulsa and Oklahoma City certainly lead the charge on that. And eviction is a direct cause of homelessness. We find that in our point-in-time count results that are done every year. The most recent point-in-time report found that 17% of respondents who were experiencing homelessness at the time of that interview cited eviction as the direct cause of their homelessness. We also have found through some excellent work from Impact Tulsa that chronic absenteeism is directly tied to unstable housing and eviction. They found that a family that experiences an eviction filing has increases in chronic absenteeism that follow that child for up to a year afterwards. And we know the challenges that chronic absenteeism has when we're trying to make sure that our kids are learning and just in safe schools as well. And as Councilor Bellis said, legal representation is a proven strategy nationally and right here in our backyard. We've been lucky to have the level of legal representation we've had with some federal and COVID-related funds over the past several years. But as those funding streams change, it's an opportunity for this city to explore what it takes to really ensure that we have that path going forward.
Yes. Okay, I'll let you go over this timeline.
Sure.
This has been your life.
Well, it truly has. So this timeline starts in 2023, but it easily could have started in 2019. But we started really with the City Hall work, which was around 2023, some intentional work from some counselors who were in this room of reaching out to some other cities that have implemented tenant representation programs recently to learn how they're working. There's a really good meeting with some folks from Kansas City, as well as some research on how these programs are set up in other jurisdictions. The 3H task force in the spring had a presentation on legal systems. That was another time I got to come and talk to you all about the impact that legal representation can have. The city was invited to participate in the Results for America policy sprint on tenant representation in the fall of 2024. That was an exceptional learning opportunity for the community to bring different stakeholders to the table and learn from other national partners and other jurisdictions that are sort of walking through this process at the same time to think about what specifically makes sense for Tulsa, right? Our landscape is different in a lot of ways, so thinking about how it needs to be tailored here, there's a lot of opportunity for collaborative thinking there.
I'll flag real quick, James Wagner participated in that, which I just had to name because he brought a lot of the, okay, what does this look like to actually administer something, not even necessarily it happening again through City Hall itself by any means necessarily, but like what even different levels of lift would it look like for
Right.
someone like him to
Yeah.
help ensure is happening.
Possibly the
Yeah.
world's most pragmatic man, James Wagner.
Yeah.
The Mayor's Eviction Mitigation Coalition was convened last fall. Several of you served on that. There were also many community stakeholders. And that was several months of opportunity to think about a whole range of opportunities for Tulsa to consider the impact of eviction on our city and how we might address it. And at the end of that coalition, the number one recommendation out of all of the working groups and the coalition as a whole was a tenant representation program through the city, was ensuring that we have a commitment to those financial resources for that service moving forward. And so then we moved into a budget process and some stakeholder engagement, which really just looks like many, many conversations with you all and with Jack and Sarah and with James and with Jean and with Emily and with all the people who are going to need to be a part of establishing a program that could run successfully and into the future. And that brings us to today.
Yes, I'll just add one or two small reminders of when we did the last Mayor Council budget retreat, this came up as a conversation then, when we've looked at how we want to set goals around allocating housing dollars, we did make sure that work like this is encapsulated in that. We could get more into the weeds, but there are several potential funding sources, and I'll name, and you can see within the resolution as well, we're not trying to assign a very hyper-specific amount that has to come from the city. To us, it's more of like making sure that we're showing, and we have some ballpark numbers of like looking at about an initial multi-year, like 500,000, that's like an upper bound of like for 3 years, where we know that there are private dollars and people who believe in this work want to come alongside, and it could, like, I don't know that our city even has to make an investment past a certain point, but we're not gonna get those partners who are ready to be at the table fully there, putting their dollars in as well, until we show that skin in the game, as we've seen repeatedly over time. And I'm thinking of Councilor Lakin's, like, you know, the 3 different stool, like, what is it? Legs of the stool, thank you. But yeah, like, I could not get there. But yeah, thinking about those, like, we know those other legs are ready, so we have to put like our piece in, and so this is us really conveying that commitment so we can go back out to those other partners and go, hey, we're ready, we know you've been waiting for us to do this, and like, and you know, making sure there's a good home for it, and of course there's existing organizations. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that we've kind of worked through that process, checked where, even just for the idea of different buckets of city dollars, or, you know, issuing an RFP, made sure there's capacity within City Hall. We had, at one point in time, sat down with probably 8 different folks from the mayor's office when we were looking at more of an initial ordinance and trying to go more of an internal programmatic route, and just really heard capacity concerns. And I know we all have concerns if the city takes on more of a certain type of work. And so this is more of a, I think, a good compromise that conveys like a commitment, acknowledges the need, and says, hey, we're going to be a key stakeholder in doing this, while also not restricting or confining ourselves for how that looks moving forward. But yeah, I'll let you describe more of what the proposal actually does.
Sure.
Yes.
And as Councilor Bella said, it really, it's setting a recommendation for a framework with, I think, some guide rails for where everyone should look as it gets fully developed for implementation. So the resolution recommends establishing a landlord-tenant representation program that would live within the Planning and Neighborhoods Department. We've had some conversations with James Wagner and the team there to make sure they feel confident about their capacity to manage an effort like this. Recommends, as was stated, a cornerstone investment that can help leverage those philanthropic contributions. We are ready to run with a roadshow for those philanthropic conversations. We've had a lot of background conversations already, and I think the well is very primed there. Yes. And then recommends aligning the program with nationally recognized best practices and community stakeholders' feedback. I think that's a really natural build on the Eviction Mitigation Coalition work from the past year and a lot of the other stakeholder conversations that have been happening in the community, and a lot of the research that has been done to date, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We do need to be thoughtful and specific about what Tulsa needs, but we certainly aren't starting from scratch. We know what these programs can contain. We know from a lot of conversations that have happened to date what we think makes sense for Tulsa. So it's really just like sitting down with a small group and putting that on paper once we know that there's a financial commitment to resources being available, and then being able to sort of plan down the road so that can scale with available resources.
And, okay, before we go to the word questions, no, I actually, I'm gonna have Sarah has kind of some copies so you can actually see it on paper. Again, highlighting the flexibility we left built in, including for where the dollars could come from, though there are 2 or 3 different buckets, including related to, where we kind of ensure that when we're looking at addressing housing and homelessness, we've embedded this as a goal. There's also the potential for CDBG or home dollars. There's a few different possibilities. I think the big thing is that we just want to ensure that we're laying out clearly, here's our intention, and saying that we intend as a city to put skin in the game to have those partners come along with us in doing this.
Actually, and I'll share one other thing too. In the sort of like, what does the design and the final shape of this look like? As I said, it's a bit of a work in progress still, but there are some recommendations in here. We know that we likely won't have enough resources to ensure that everyone who might need a lawyer facing eviction could have one. So there are some recommendations for consideration around prioritization, looking at what we know are sort of vulnerabilities around poverty or school-aged kids in the home. Another thing that we had talked about over the course of this process is making this resource available to low-income tenants and landlords. We know that a lot of our mom and pop landlords, especially who may just have generational housing in their family, might find themselves needing to walk through the eviction process as a landlord and unable to afford an attorney. And I will tell you, if you haven't had a chance to go observe the eviction docket, if you don't have someone there to walk you through what's happening, you do not know what is happening. So recognizing that a fair and accessible justice system really works best when it is available to all of the sides of a dispute was a really important consideration as we put this proposal together as well.
Great, thank you for that.
So it is both sides.
Yep.
Yes, very intentionally.
Other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm sorry if you said this, I tried to listen to everything that you were saying, but I sometimes
Was
go
the ice
different
cream.
places. I'm sure I'm not the only one that happens to. So would there be an attorney in the city of okay.
No.
Would it be contracted out? How?
Yes,
Okay.
so the proposal is basically the funds would flow to the planning department, and then they would manage an RFP process for providers to provide these legal services. So some of those obviously would probably flow to Legal Aid, who has been our primary provider of this so far, but it would also open the door to additional providers, which could really help fill some of the gaps that our community is seeing right now around eligibility, around considerations on like conflict checks, right? Just making sure we have more providers at the table is going to pretty dramatically, I think, expand who can have access to that representation.
And do philanthropic organizations have to give their monies to the city, or can they give it to the participating partners, like the Legal Aid? Because some don't give to the city of Tulsa.
Yes, we have talked through that about different fiscal homes, and there's a few different options, and like depending on, different funders, per your
Yeah.
point, will be like, maybe not the city, maybe not here. We have a few different like neutral convening fiscal sponsors we've talked through that have already expressed being like willing participants, or,
Yeah.
so yeah.
But I think one of the benefits of having the contract process flow through the city is it's a home for transparency and accountability, particularly if there are city dollars involved, right? Like, we can tie expectations on reporting and data sharing that wouldn't necessarily be there when it's that sort of one-on-one philanthropic giving directly to an organization. When it runs through a centralized program, you can have like full picture data reporting at the end of a year for all of the providers and everyone who's benefited from it.
Yeah, so long as we can contract efficiently,
Right, yes,
True.
yeah,
as efficiently as the private
as,
sector.
yes.
And
Okay.
reimburse
Yeah, and
efficiently.
and I do wanna name again, that part of me too is just like getting these dollars at least over the course of 2 to 3 years to like just scale this work, see those outcomes, and then it is one of those moments of, okay, maybe it's a bell curve and the issue becomes a bit smaller as we're doing all this other work, and we don't have to keep dedicating as many city dollars or dollars. This is one of those things where when we start making an impact on it, paired with all the other work we're doing, this implicit, we're taking on this cost and we have to do it in perpetuity. There really is a potential very real off-ramp, especially as the work scales and we're building more community capacity. This is really something that even just for if we can do this and make sure that we're really setting our minds to it for a few years in a row, you really do have an actual off-ramp paired with all the other work that's come out of the 3H task force and other investments we're making. And then if we can increase the community, that legal representation capacity by helping incentivize through this, get those other dollars at the table and build up that capacity, that also, that runway makes a big difference as well. But then we're not sitting here in perpetuity going, and now we permanently have to fund this program. Part of what we were hoping to achieve with this too is not putting ourselves in that position, right? Is going, how can we help get a launch point, bring others to the table, see successes and make decisions from there instead of having to be completely, as we've seen so many times before, with ARPA and other dollars where it's you do it once or over a little bit of time and then it's gone. I think this creates, it can help scale and kind of stabilize the resource, but I don't know that it's now we're gonna be stuck doing that or something like that. Especially with existing programming already being there, the bottom doesn't fall out if the city's present or not over the long haul. We can help right now.
So long as it's structured like that on the front end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 2 more questions. Who's not gonna like this? Who or what's not gonna like this?
There will be some landlords, I think, who will be skeptical of it to start. And my hope is that what has happened in other communities will also be proven true here, which is that when a lawyer is involved on both sides of an eviction dispute, it gets resolved faster, it gets resolved more smoothly, it gets resolved with less conflict, and then a landlord is more likely to get the money they are owed. So I think there's some skepticism going into it, maybe based on prior experience, but also a lot of assumptions. And I think once we can get through sort of a proof of concept time, I think we'll be able to tackle a lot of that with just the reality of how this works with a smoother and more humane and more understood eviction docket.
Okay, and then last, I think you've already said this, and I think I read it, the funding goal is just a goal. If we all say yes to this resolution, we didn't say yes to any specific amount of funding that comes.
No specific amount or source.
When available and all that kind of stuff.
This is more of we know and we've heard from the funding community who cares and wants to do this, that they're we have to know the city is, putting at least a framework around our next steps for it. And, I think I'm really glad we went through that, eviction mitigation coalition that Councilor Archie and myself were on, just see some of these other things lining up as a part of that broader picture. And at the same time, I think we have a funding community that's been ready to do this for the past year. And I also want to make sure that we're kind of not keeping them in the wings for much longer. Hence, being hey, we don't have to figure all of these elements out today related to dollar amount, source, et cetera, that we have an array of options. But if this is us setting that intention so that we can get those next steps going, but we're not confining ourselves into any specific corner, which, yes.
Can I ask a question about section 5? So we have a lot of shalls in 3 and 4, 5 becomes a may.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Why it's not a shall?
The first may is a great question for Sarah, about whether that should stay a may or whether it should change. Or Jack, either one. But I think the second may, the may include was really intending to say, there should be eligibility prioritization considerations, but the council doesn't necessarily want to say, they must be these, right? Based on how much money is able to be raised, what the capacity is. Some of these considerations could be more generous, could be more restrictive, and could scale. So I think that second may was just to not lock in, but to recommend that they consider starting.
But we could make the first one a shall.
Right, and you referenced eligibility requirements. How do these align to what already is accessible through LASSO?
So the household income guideline is higher than LASSO's, which is another reason the idea of bringing in additional providers is really appealing, to be able to fill that eligibility gap. Their eligibility is generally drawn at around 135% of the federal poverty line. The City of Tulsa residency obviously makes sense for a city program.
Sure.
They
I
are
feel like that
currently-
should be a shall, though.
Yeah, that probably should be. The priority consideration for households with school-age kids
That's aligning to the Impact Tulsa.
is also actually a process that legal aid is using right now.
Okay.
Like, they don't have enough resources to serve everyone, so they are doing some of that prioritization. And that is one of their top ones right now.
And that aligns to the Mayor's Office of Children, Family, and Youth initiatives.
Oh, were they working on this?
No. Not that we know of.
Oh, so wait, the Office of Resilience, somebody was, Resilience and Equity, who was working on eviction mitigation?
No, well, so Emily Hall led the Eviction Mitigation Coalition.
Okay, somebody was
But
doing
there
no
was
one-
some overlap, I think,
Yeah, I don't
from
know.
who attended some of those meetings. And Impact Tulsa was so helpful, I think, in basically
With
Impact
any of
Tulsa
these
was
the
doing,
eviction
yeah,
data
Impact
for
Tulsa was doing this
youth.
eviction work,
Yeah.
which is when Counselor Ballas Hall Harper and I met with their leadership probably a year and a half ago with folks out of Kansas City to look at it, and I think Ms. Dilks, you referenced that at the beginning.
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago now.
Time goes by fast.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how we get in the nuance of shall versus must, but for me personally, I think it has to be a must or may, or shall.
On section 5, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I feel like the residency thing can't be a may.
I think that is up to you all, and that was
So,
a
I'm not to say like,
change I wasn't involved in.
I don't know if we get it like a section 6, so we have some mays and some shalls.
well, I think what we could do is say like, a department designated by the mayor shall develop eligibility criteria,
I don't
which.
want shall.
No, okay, what would you prefer?
I need to think about it, but
Okay.
I'm not a,
So I think there's two different things happening here.
Yeah.
So the first one is essentially what you think the function of the department should do. So a department designated by the mayor, all you're saying there is they should or should not develop criteria. Right now, it's the department could develop criteria. If you want criteria, you should make that shall. If
Okay.
you're just saying maybe they would have criteria, you should leave that may.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it goes into the eligibility criteria may include, so you're putting
These are
out, here's some of your
suggestions, yeah.
policy ideas, so that the criteria itself could change. But-
My legislative drafting brain just turned on, and I have a possible suggestion to fix it, which is we take out City of Tulsa residency from the eligibility guidelines and put it in section 1,
Okay.
where it says that provides legal assistance representation to eligible low-income tenants who must be City of Tulsa residents, and where appropriate, eligible landlords who must be City of
Yes.
Tulsa residents.
that fixes
And then it's
that.
just up
Yeah.
there, and it doesn't have to
Yep.
be in the guidelines.
That's
do that.
And then it sounds like we don't want it to be, if you wanna come up with criteria, we wanna compel and say shall, right?
Well, no, but hold on, Counselor Gilbert, is there like, had a hesitation about shall? What would, is
Why
there?
don't you just say two, a department designated by the mayor to develop, you have to use one other word in there.
Shall develop eligibility criteria.
Can you
A
tell me?
department,
this isn't on tonight, is it?
No, we have
Okay,
another.
well then we can work on it.
Yeah, we
So
can.
it doesn't have to come out of this meeting right now, correct?
Yeah.
It's on for the second.
Well, this is the only time I have to talk to you all
And
about it.
yes, this is the only time all of us can
Together.
talk about it.
This, I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of it, so.
The other
About
thing
will.
is, we can work with the sponsor
Otherwise
to
than shall.
make changes and put it back on a committee. That's
Yeah,
another
could always
choice
a
we can
committee
do.
The same voting day. But yeah, I mean, I will highlight again though, like, I think I don't wanna over belabor this either, at the same time. But no, if there's concern about a word like shall, we could do.
Might.
Hmm?
I'm just, sorry,
We're coming up
we're just
with other
throwing
words.
words back
Yeah.
at each other.
Will, shall, must, I can name all
Well, we
22
know Counselor
healthy
Lakin
votes very
likes to get his
quickly.
red pound out on these discussions, so I was
Yeah.
hoping he would have some words.
Well, here, what's
That's what we
the,
were just exchanging.
Yeah.
can you tell me more, just so I understand what the issue with the word shall is? Like, I don't know what, like, if there's been issues with that
No,
in the
this is just the
past.
first time that I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
And so I
Oh.
wanna have more time to look it over.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I
So
mean,
why
it's
don't we
in the
put it back on
background, too, but
committee or,
Okay, yeah, we
I
can.
mean,
you're not in a
shall to
working
me
group,
sounds
right?
like-
It's
It's
just you.
compulsory.
You should do it, you are
Yeah.
gonna do it,
It's compulsory.
Yeah.
so,
At the state level, that's what.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
But
why,
then it's still a shall within a resolution.
yeah, it's a non-binding resolution.
I know, but still, some people take these more
Literal.
seriously.
I mean, I was listening to what Sarah said, if May stays on criteria, then it's like a suggestion that we had criteria.
Yeah.
It sounds like we want there to be criteria, and thank you for making that
Yeah, that's a good.
section.
Definitely
too.
move the residency.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yes, Counselor Dutton.
Yeah, so, I heard correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it will benefit local property owners, correct? And so like
Low income.
property owners.
Yeah, as, yeah.
Yeah.
They will
'cause-
have eligibility to
Right, because I'm
for
just.
representation.
Right, which is going to go in section 5, right? That we had discussed.
No.
No, it's in
that's
the first section one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, because I just want to make sure that we're not supporting property owners that are bad actors.
Well, that's, right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, that's,
No,
The
well, I
second
think
from the
that-
bottom whereas
I
statement
think going
says.
back to the
Right,
kind
okay.
of idea related to, like, you know, Katie kind of gave those examples of, that it's just really challenging for both parties
Yeah.
when they don't have legal representation or people with expertise navigating a process. Honestly, whether they're good or faith actors or not from either party, it just makes it more miserable mutually for everyone if there's not a smooth legal experience for people.
Frankly,
Yeah.
unrepresented landlords who aren't like frequent users of the eviction docket, which
Yeah.
is most of our
Yeah, correct.
small owners, right? Like, most people don't file evictions most of the
Right.
time. Are honestly some of the most likely to not fully understand their responsibilities under the law. And when you give them a lawyer, you increase the likelihood that they are going to follow the law in filing an eviction, right? They'll have somebody there to explain what the process is, what are the steps they have to go through, make sure they give notice correctly, make sure they're not just locking the tenant out inappropriately. So it can actually go a long way, I think, towards educating some of those low information landlords who've just like found themselves in that situation. So that, and then it plays the other way too, right? When you have an attorney on the other side representing the tenant, they can make sure that the landlord has followed all of those steps in the law that they're required to.
The high evictors in town, the eviction mills, have on retainer.
Yes, yeah.
Literal,
Yeah.
literal
Yes.
legal representation that their
This is much
sole
more designed
purpose
for
is
those
to
mom
do.
and pop,
Yeah,
like,
do not
you
follow
have a,
200%.
one other property or two others,
Yeah.
maybe you inherited, you're just trying to do what you can with them.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Deb.
I'm sorry, no, I'm just thinking back on the previous work we've done. So when you're talking about mom and pops, do you have a cap of how many doors do you consider mom and pop?
I
No,
think it would
it's just
still,
the income.
yeah, it'd be, well, and I think it would be up to, like, with the rest of this, right? If there's considerations for other guidelines you want to provide on that. But it would be
So
up
be
to the
the
program
guideline.
design to figure out what that eligibility looks like. But I
Yeah.
think keeping it
And
primarily
maybe you could
based on
share some of
income.
that information.
Yeah,
that you-
just thinking about what we worked
Yeah.
on before,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
why-
it's like, is it 24 doors and under or whatever? You know,
question.
because all of a sudden then you're kind of getting into
Right.
corporate, which is a different beast, where you
Exactly.
have the
Yeah.
retainer and all that.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I guess providing that
Yeah.
guidance when we set the guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get the intent and I think it's great.
Yeah, I just think,
wanna make
yeah,
sure
I
that
think
it's-
about that
Yeah.
appeal we just went through
Yeah.
and that guy who had somebody renting and then like it turned into a nightmare. And I just think about
I
those.
mean, that happens to people.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why
Yeah.
I'll flag, again, the nature of this being a resolution, knowing this is iterative work, a lot's gone into it, but at the same time, this is more just intention setting, going, hey,
Yes.
we think this is something we should do and should commit to, and acknowledging, as you keep mentioning, like the program design, as we, concurrent to us being able to go and say, hey, the city is committing to this, and does believe this is important work, and being able to go and start securing those outside dollars is like the program, some of those program design and some of these fine tuning elements can happen concurrently when we're actually able to go, okay, here's like us having committed.
And an
So not
ordinance
saying
might
like,
come later.
yeah,
Yeah.
so just like, you know, with this on the plus side, we don't have to be in a perfect enemy of good kind of spot, cause it's like, we're just resolving to seek to do this thing.
Okay.
We're not committing ourselves to like any of the precise details here, so much as going, this is what we're trying to do.
Do you
And
wanna-
remind, oh, sorry,
sorry.
remind me, and I did tour the eviction when we were working at
Yeah.
the state level. Is that, county or municipal court?
It's county court.
It's county.
It's county court, yeah.
Okay.
It's over at the juvenile.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
going
that
out
is the
and-
complexity of the
Yeah,
nature
a
of
lot of,
this.
a lot of municipal programs, the municipality has the docket and
Right.
that's our challenge.
But I mean, I remember
Yeah, it's just-
talking to the two judges
Yeah.
after all that, and they were looking for they want to be more helpful as
Yeah.
opposed to punitive.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they feel
Yeah.
not restricted, they just wish they had more resources
Mhm.
to
Yes.
help people navigate that complicated system.
Exactly.
Because they don't want to be up there evicting people either, but they understand the law.
Yes.
So,
And that's
We've come a
all-
distance
Yeah.
in the last
We
3
really
years, but this
Yeah.
is a big leap. Counselor Lakin.
Okay, again, was sidetracked. So I apologize if you've already discussed this, but item 1 says expresses its intent. Item 2 says intent, the city intends. If 3, 4, and 5 say intends, if they just carry this along,
yeah.
then everything after that is just related to the intent rather than an absolute. So the city intends to create a department designated by the mayor
Right.
to develop eligibility criteria for participation in the program.
So taking out the shalls and the mays and using the word intent.
Or
Well,
you
starting
say-
it with the intent. The
It
city of
covers all
Tulsa
of it.
intends to create a department
and then everything
designated
else
by the
can
mayor
be-
to
Yeah.
develop eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
So
So,
can,
and then,
Yeah.
then the resolution is just all about intent.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about may and shall or anything else.
could we have a
Okay.
Word version of this sent to the council and we can kind of do our
I think I got good,
suggested edits?
just to keep it clean maybe, or not end up with too many, I think
Yeah,
I've
you
heard
be
a
the
bunch of
Yep.
good,
author.
like
Editor.
suggestions that, yeah.
That works.
I think I appreciate that was good linguistic modality shifting. So yeah, I think we can just take these and put it back on for committee for,
Second.
Modality shifter.
yeah, we can put it back on for committee on the second before we vote on it with like that cleaned up copy from everyone's
Okay.
feedback. Which, yeah, just to name too, this like, that's, whenever I bring you all something, it is, cause I'm like, let's all discuss it as a group, cause I want everyone's
Well,
feedback,
that's
so
why it
it's
goes on
appreciated.
committee, yes.
Yes.
Counselor Gilbert.
Where did I see that? So this is, are you asking for a new department to be set up? Is that what this is?
No.
No, it's the department, I
Designate
think,
a
should
department.
be a
department
department
designated.
designated by the mayor. So the designation
It
that
could
is
be
being
the Office of
recommended
Resilience and
here
Equity
is-
or the Mayor's
Right.
Office of Children, Family
Just
and Youth
for
or
whoever
the
issues the
Housing Office,
RFP.
yeah.
Yeah, and we think
Just
what
needs
will
to live
happen
somewhere.
is it'll be the planning department because those are the conversations that we've had.
So is that going, I mean, of course, that's going to require more funding.
They said $500,000 is the goal.
Well,
Public-private.
yeah, for,
So all private, no
No.
public?
Public-private.
Public.
no
and
public, we
private.
wanted
Seed
to.
it and
To
then grow
PPP.
it to the private side.
Which we did, did historically at the table ensure that we like brought in definitions of like our housing homelessness dollar goals to include something like
I get
this.
that,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, I wasn't sure.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we have dollars designated for this work.
Yes.
Baked into the 3H task force work that we did.
When you guys did the vision economic development surplus, you expanded the definition of homelessness initiatives to include eviction mitigation. If that's a path that you wanted to go down, you can also look at CDBG allocations or who knows, some grant could pop up in 30 days that a city can apply for and maybe that's your first, that's your, but you did intentionally in the budget process in June expand that definition of the homeless dollars.
Yes. For prevention of homelessness, not just.
That it could
letting people
include a
fall in.
program
Yeah,
like this or others.
yeah. Counselor Bengal?
How are we leveraging the early settlement program?
So the early settlement program has been a, I would say, mixed partner at the Tulsa eviction docket. They're there sometimes, but the Tulsa County Early Settlement Program, I think, has struggled to find a way to provide mediation at the pace that the eviction docket tends to move. I do think a piece of this, especially because it's written to say, like, provide access to legal assistance and representation, that could be a broader definition, if the program design wants it to be. That was certainly something that was discussed in the Eviction Mitigation Coalition, is how can we leverage that? Are there ways to incentivize pre-filing mediation, like as an alternative to eviction filing? That was something that came up with Jean Bolmish's conversation and stakeholder conversations around possibly relaunching like the Gold Star Landlord Program would be one of the requirements or an expectation would be that you do that. So I think there's a lot of space to bring them into this conversation, but they haven't traditionally been a huge player on the eviction docket in Tulsa County, which isn't necessarily the same in Oklahoma County.
Right, but have they been engaged in trying to pull them into this?
Conversations have been had with mixed success, I will say.
And then the other question I would ask is on the structure, right, within the city, would that program, I'm assuming there would be a program manager here in the city. Would that person be responsible for going out and doing fundraising, or would that be on the contractor?
I think that can be part of the program design discussion as well. I know when we had conversations with James about what his team's capacity looks like, given that the bulk of this really is just sort of like an RFP management and some data work, he felt confident that this could probably be a half-time role, and he actually had someone in mind who already has another half-time responsibility that this could fit. I think the idea is that most of the fundraising responsibility would probably be sort of a shared community effort, to see how that goes. I mean, Councilor Bellis and I are gonna start with, I think, but.
Yeah, well, and since a lot of, like, when we're talking about partners, you have the folks that are already doing this work, or some of these different organizations that have already kind of stood up doing this work. We have that opportunity to go, okay, if we have a multi-year approach of, hey, we're as a city seeking to support this over X amount of time, we have those private dollars, it gives us that runway, and those organizations, as they scale, see successes, et cetera, then they can use that to make the case for either more funding from any of the stakeholders, because it'll still be something that they own, because it's, you know, we're not saying this work is actually coming from City Hall itself, so much as just us trying to help scale
So your
it.
intent really is to seed a program, show success,
Yeah.
and then potentially
Yeah.
bring in
Yeah,
more.
and there's, part of it on the plus side, the pilot of course already exists just because it's existing work. The real
Yeah.
issue is that instead of scaling, given how high impact it is, it's been shrinking. And so it's really trying to, just seed its scaling, knowing that there's a lot of demand, knowing there's private dollars that have really wanted to be part of scaling it.
Yeah,
Um,
there's other
yeah.
peer cities across the country that do this as a municipal effort because their eviction docket is in their municipal court. We have a bit of a structural challenge.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking about the structure,
Yeah.
right?
Although-
Because the early settlement is
Yeah.
a county and
Which I think
state.
it could be leveraged more.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I feel like it's their docket,
Yeah.
they should help mitigate
Yeah.
some of
I
this.
totally agree.
There's a lot of municipalities that have been doing this very successfully, and I think to Councilor Bellis's point, once you start taking down, like, we're a very high rate here.
Right.
Once we start taking that rate down, then it's self-sustaining, should be. I think the other thing that we're not talking about today, but maybe we will when we revisit, is as we lower the rate of eviction, we'll see impact on a lower rate of homelessness. Because people get stuck in that, and once you've been evicted, it's very hard to get new housing. So we're trying to get upstream of some of these
Do
issues
we
that are
have
being
data to
perpetuated
support
at the
that?
bottom. Say it?
Do we have data to support that?
Oh, yeah. I had the highest rate of eviction in my district in the whole state.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
Until we closed the
Because you're
bad
the
actor.
most apartment complexes.
Yes, but when we specifically closed the biggest apartment complex
Right.
that had the highest rate of eviction, District 7's now number 2, and District 5, I think, is number 1 right now,
Okay.
so.
Well, like I said, as long as the landlords are
Yeah.
involved in this and they
Yes.
understand,
And there've been,
yeah,
like,
cause like Counselor Lakin said,
And
you know,
landlords have
who's
been-
not
Who's
gonna
not
like
gonna
this,
like it.
and that's
and landlords
not
have
who's-
been
that's who's
consulted
not gonna
about
like
what
it.
does this look like for,
Don't
we've
let
been,
people know.
landlords have definitely been consulted
I
throughout the
mean, I'm
design
okay if the ones
process.
that don't like it are the bad actors that keep causing our
Yeah.
neighbors to be homeless.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of
The mom
other-
and pops.
other
Right.
things.
Yeah.
The ones who are
But
doing
it's kind of the
things the
David
right
and Goliath
way,
right now with these,
who do
yeah.
have bad
So-
tenants.
just think of this
Yes.
summer.
Yeah, we do want,
Just
them
think
to
of this
have
summer
support
of
too.
the crisis that was created.
Yeah.
This would give those people an opportunity to at least enter the courtroom with a professional.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, listening and thinking, so I do know some local landlords that would be considered good actors, but do not provide code standards for some of their apartments. And so there have been multiple threats of evictions, but no actual evictions to record. So I'm wondering how this is going to work with landlords like that, that are local, that have retaliatory actions upon their renters
Right.
and constantly threaten that they're going to evict them.
Without actually filing.
Right.
This
Which-
kind of lives
which puts it-
much more specifically in the filing space.
Yeah, but it still
But
puts a
somebody
lot
like
of
that,
fear, but.
a tenant like that can go to Lasso though,
Yeah.
or
And
the
I think-
hub.
And one of the things that this would also do is just expand the number of, like housing and eviction related attorneys who are working and experienced in that space in Tulsa,
Mhm.
which means it's more likely that they would be able to get help with a situation like that, because legal aid probably wouldn't be running with a 4.5-person housing team, which is what they're down to now. They could get back up to like a much fuller cohort, which means they would have capacity to handle cases like that in addition to their sort of eviction bread and butter.
Okay, so I think there have been evictions filed, but I don't think it's been enough to flag anything per se, but the fact that there's still lead paint,
Yeah. I mean,
there
but that gets into the.
are not screens on the windows.
This is still relative to some of the other, well, that's where we get into the habitability things.
Right.
This is one of those, this is
Okay.
a tool in a toolkit.
Right, no,
And
yeah, I
like,
just wondered how
yeah.
that would work
Yeah.
as part of.
I don't know if
this.
those two things, what it would look like for those to have communication
it's
with
in-
each other. I don't know, it's a little sticky since this is really about like that civil legal access angle. I don't know how it can I don't even know if that's an option for them to have like coordinated with sets of information like that.
But it's planning, right? Planning in neighborhoods is where you want it, which is where code enforcement is.
But
I
there,
mean, how can you
that-
not-
that's why we made the changes to
Yeah.
Title 55.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the enforcement side though.
I think it's these different upstream, downstream elements
I
and
don't
this
know
kind
where
of just.
they're at in that
Yeah,
process, so.
well, and I'll name even when, I know you're speaking to the like, hey, if you do have these landlords that.
Retaliation.
Yeah, there's retaliation concerns and things like that, we can't codify or shift some of those things, however, I still go back to when you have people who know the legal process and help usher both parties through it, it just goes smoother for everyone regardless, even if we don't think someone's like the nicest human or whatever it is, it still just helps both parties have a better experience.
Yeah, well, and we witness what happens with retaliatory with Vista Shadow Mountain, where they did not complain because they did not want to end up
Yeah,
homeless.
but that's a state issue
I
that
get it.
needs, but we can still do these steps. I mean, I think we just,
Yeah.
rather than focus on what's outside our purview, this could be a direct purview.
Yeah.
Sounds like for the investment to get started,
Yes.
we would measure outcomes. Obviously, if the outcomes are not achieved, then we don't fund it
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
But
This
right
is
now, we
purpose-
haven't even tried.
Yeah.
And other cities have, and they're finding success, and they're lowering this hamster wheel of evictions for folks. And especially when we can get the Impact Tulsa numbers, when you look at the correlation between eviction and truancy,
Yeah.
it's a very straight line.
Yes.
It's a very
So-
But yeah, so I'll work with Katie and Sarah and folks on the language, like cleanup from everyone's
Okay.
feedback, super helpful. Again, just like a draft, a
Yeah.
resolution.
If you-
So we'll bring that back for
If you can share
next
some of the
week.
data you collected through the sprint or just the work.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of folks at this table that haven't done the
Yeah.
deep dive, and
Yeah.
it might be helpful to
Oh, for sure.
give all the
Yeah.
information.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I love when a
Rebecca.
committee is actually a committee where we have discussion, that's great.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that forward, thanks for your work, Katie and Counselor Bellis on
Yeah.
this. Okay, we have an
Thank you.
addendum, so even though it looks like we should be adjourning, get on your other piece of paper here. A discussion regarding the formation of a public safety task force, including potential task force goals, objectives, and timelines. Other than discussion, no action will be taken. This is brought to us by Counselor Gilbert. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Why did we receive this on Monday at 4, like after 4 o'clock?
I had called Sarah and Chris Monday morning and asked for it to go on.
Okay, is there like an emergency or something? It was a little surprising.
I had asked for it previously. and it
Okay.
just had,
Just got lost in the shuffle or something, okay.
Yeah.
Because normally it's, noon on Thursday, so, okay.
yeah.
Great.
We add stuff all the time, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually there's like an emergency clause or
Well-
some compelling reason, but I just had a question.
With all the discussion going on, with especially the discussion that we had this morning on code enforcement, just putting together a task force so that we can get people, community members, us and different public safety departments together to talk about what we can do to strengthen the services that we provide to the citizens.
Great. Do you have a presentation?
I do not.
Oh, it's just a discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep, so.
Go, Counselor Lincoln.
So I've talked to Counselor Gilbert about this, as well as maybe Counselor Bingle. I was watching another city council meeting from a pretty large city, about the same size as Tulsa, actually. And I don't know why I was watching this.
What city?
You were really
Fort
bored.
Worth. But they have a standing, just like we have Public Works and UBD, a Public Safety Committee meeting.
Yep.
And
That's where our quarterly reports could come.
well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So-
Thank goodness we're getting those.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it
so
could be consolidated in the
if we
meeting.
had a time dedicated in our city council meetings, these in 411, where we had a public safety committee meeting at like 1 o'clock every quarter,
Sure.
then this task force could report to that public safety committee, but it also gives us the opportunity to talk to the police chief, the fire chief, the IMSA chief, and if we want to talk to.
Area management, now that we have.
What, right, team, right.
Animal
So
services.
whatever is in there, but just have a touch point where they know they're coming to talk to us and we know they're coming to talk to us, and we're getting a report. I don't know if this is what you have to.
Quarterly report?
Yeah, or monthly, depending on.
Well, I was just expressing quarterly. I don't know what Counselor Gilbert has planned for the task force and what the output of the task force will be. So I don't really want to say whether or not it should be quarterly or monthly or whenever it is. I just think, and I should have brought this up, 15 years ago, that we need a chance to talk directly to those chiefs on a preset schedule.
Yeah.
So
Chief Ford's always
that we're
just been
reporting
when
to
the
them and they're
council brings
reporting to
them.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my only
willy-nilly.
thought.
Whenever we have something arise in our
Yeah.
district, and
Yeah.
then we want them at the table to discuss.
Yeah.
Or during budget season,
Right.
so.
High-level stuff,
Right,
just.
right.
Right.
But also, especially now, we have several vacant properties around town, and so I thought, when you think of public safety, you always think of police and fire, right? But I think code enforcement needs to be involved in this as well, so we can start talking about what can we as a city do about these vacant properties, and how can we repurpose them possibly sooner rather than later, so.
I have Counselor Ballas and Counselor Dutton.
Yeah, what you were just describing reminds me a lot of something I really like that I saw in Dallas, which this was related to kind of more broadly related to this thing that was addressing child poverty there, but it was, and I've mentioned it at this table before, where they had all of these different city leaders, where it was like the heads of the hospitals, the superintendent of public schools, the this, the that, and it is really powerful when you get all of those people coordinating across those spaces and convening on a regular basis. I'm kind of curious just to understand, Ryan, what you just mentioned, like police, fire, EMSA. It does make me wonder if there's a way or a cadence when we think about like the broad nature of like public safety. I don't want to like make it, I know, too big of a thing or too impractical, but maybe on a certain basis it does include, I was thinking about like, we have our hospital systems that are on that coordinating side, or I know you mentioned like emergency management, or I would just be interesting in thinking about goals or what it could look like. It would be interesting to think through the like internal and external stakeholder coordination side of it, because sometimes, especially like when we're talking about housing and homelessness issues, and there's challenges that we're talking about where it's like where public safety and our folks are meeting all of these ER rooms between, and EMSA's the in-between. I don't know, I was just trying to think through there's so much that happens there that then we have historically gotten some of that feedback. We know there's kind of data that intersects, but it's hard to track down. And it's like, oh, we should upstream change that policy, or we should better support X thing. So I was just trying to think through some of those other partners, or for instance, TPS has their own public safety. I was thinking through those other like kind of big public safety institutions that have their own different mechanisms or leaders, and I'm like, would they maybe be brought in on a certain cadence or on the same cadence, or what would make sense depending on the goal?
We,
And what does the task force do compared to
Yeah.
the committee?
Yeah, totally.
yeah, I mean, we do have a MOU with Tulsa Public,
Mhm.
so, I mean, there's,
And all the other school districts?
Right,
Jinx,
right.
Bixby,
so,
Union.
I apologize for not coming as prepared as others today, but, it's been a little busy lately.
No, this is a good conversation for.
Counselor
Yeah.
Dutton?
No, discussions.
Yeah, so it's already been talked about then a little bit, and that's what we're hearing now is what's kind of been discussed.
But it will, the task force is not, it's different from a working group.
Right,
So,
right, no,
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
I'm
it's-
just trying to
Yeah.
understand this kind of already where
okay,
we're,
yep.
the discussion so that I can,
Is this the beginning of formation, or is there already something
I'll get with,
formed?
Chris and I will work on the, not you, but.
Yeah, not me.
Hoffman?
Yeah, we'll work on
Oh,
the,
tell
on the mission of it, along with when we can get it scheduled into our meetings and.
Does the task force already exist, I think is the question.
Oh, no,
Okay.
No,
'Cause we're
I just
talking about
wanted
a
to get it
standing committee.
out.
I gotcha.
so.
So we're talking about
it's-
an actual entity of internal, external stakeholders called a task force, and then we're talking about a standing meeting at 1 o'clock or
Mhm.
whatever on a regular
I
basis.
think that makes
Get,
sense.
yeah,
Okay, call
I
it
like
get
that.
quarterly
Sure.
updates
Yeah,
on 1 o'clock.
call the committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have Counselor Dutton, then Bengal, and Lincoln.
so, also to that, I think it would be important in ways that we can also advance discussions regarding winter sheltering and cooling stations,
Mhm.
because that's also a safety concern for our community. And I think,
Part of emergency response.
yeah, it is. And we're seeing right now presently that all of the cooling stations are all downtown, all three of them. And that is not safe for the citizens in these 100-plus degree days. And I think as a city, if we're going to help with winter sheltering, we need to also be considerate with the summer temperatures as well. And I think this would be a good aspect to come at it, and also include EMSA in that conversation, because they are the ones that are responding to these calls of citizens that are overheated or whatever. And they're gonna be coming next month to talk about the results of the summer temperatures and amount of calls and.
I thought I was gonna have to call them.
Yeah, well, it's really bad, and, I mean, they're receiving hundreds of calls, and
Yeah,
I would.
it's hot out there.
And I think it would be good to have all of these entities in one, format that we can address the different issues, and maybe have, like, Tulsa Police and Tulsa Fire in one meeting, and then the next meeting include EMSA, the next meeting maybe hospitals, whatever. But I like the idea. I do.
Counselor Bengal, then Lincoln.
Yeah, so obviously to clear it in my head, because I'm a little confused, just like you were, Lori. Are we talking about a task force, like for each task force, where we have specific council members that sit on that task
It's like-
force? Or are we talking about a committee, where like Phil was talking about, where we have like one come to the table on, if this is a recurring weekly thing? Or, I just want to make sure that if it's a bunch of people coming to the table on a weekly basis,
Yeah,
No,
that's
Not
just
weekly.
That wouldn't
unsustainable.
work.
Not
That's what our
Oh,
task
gosh.
force was.
No.
then.
It's all
Or
the same.
quarterly or whatever, even if you brought all those people to the table, I mean, you would have to dedicate several hours
Well, we could
listening to
rotate,
each one.
we could rotate,
Well,
say Tulsa
So that's what I'm
Fire,
saying,
Police.
is
Yeah.
it potentially to be like what the 3H
3H was every week for an hour and a
this-
half to
no.
two.
Where you just have 4 counselors and then they would report back on a regular cadence, like every, 3 or 4 months? You
Yeah,
guys would
but
come
we
to
were
the
meeting
table
weekly
and
for
report
2
to the
years.
broader
Pretty much.
council. So that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand. Is
Oh.
that your intent?
No, just having meetings, task force meetings here in 411 on certain days to discuss the different topics of public safety and
Okay.
what we can do to
So that's what
enhance.
I'm meaning. So you're not bringing all of them in one sitting?
Oh, no, no,
It
no,
would
no,
be
no.
one
It-
person,
yeah,
one
it-
entity at a
yeah.
time, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the idea that would be time-bound, like the 3H task force, or would it be
I don't
like,
know.
ongoing? Because I could see obviously a benefit of it being
Yeah.
ongoing.
I think.
We just
yeah.
need to get it started.
Yeah.
So
Just
you want a
with it.
standing group,
Yeah.
dedicated
and then-
time.
Yeah, and then once we start making progress, bringing those reports to a 1 o'clock meeting to discuss.
Yeah, they're two distinct
Yeah.
things, and I didn't mean to lob on. She opened the door, she said, hey, we're thinking about this. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me throw this on.
Right, right. No, that's okay.
But it feels like to me that the working group goes and does its own thing. It has a whole laundry list of things, but we, every quarter or whatever, have this quarterly meeting dedicated to us just talking about public safety in this room. That
To
could either be
synergize,
brought by
yeah.
the working group, or it could be something that's outside of the working group.
I mean, it might be helpful
Partnership.
in one meeting to have, instead of tucking into Public Works or Economic Development, an update on the curfew. Like you would
Yeah.
dedicate it in the public safety discussion and maybe have those topics be related somehow
Right.
or
Yep.
not. But, you know, cooling stations could be related to, emergency response could be related to an EMSA update, so that we're synergizing the information
Yeah.
and not just getting it in like random snatches between
Random.
zoning
Oh,
and
yeah.
budget
Yeah, no, 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 no.
stuff,
It would
yeah.
be a dedicated
Yeah.
time for it.
Yeah, okay.
When
So
I-
what's the next step?
Just looking for, if any of you want to serve on it, then let myself or Chris Boffman know. And then just reaching out to the different departments to let them know, picking a date and a time, of course. So,
For
and
standing
finding
meeting.
community members to be on it as well.
Yeah, Counselor Lakin, did you have follow-up?
Yeah, I think whenever I was watching a portion of that city council meeting in Fort Worth, I thought, hey, well, that's a good idea, we need to think about this. I also thought about the role that the IMSA board plays in resolving some issues, but IMSA is the only one of the three big ones that has a board. Fire doesn't have a board, police doesn't have a board, we're not a board, but we obviously are legislators and we're budget providers for those departments. And so when something goes wrong at IMSA, like if hospitals aren't moving patients through quickly enough, we're all told about that and we can work in our own ways to affect that, or we're told about how that's being affected so the patients can be taken from IMSA so we can get our ambulances back out on the street more quickly. If we don't know stuff that's happening at the police department, we can't help mitigate those issues or resolve them in different ways. So I don't know if they're gonna be beneficial or not. It feels like they could be beneficial in just the sharing of information. Then we have a dedicated time to do it, beyond the things that Karen is thinking about for the working group.
And sorry.
Go
I just
ahead.
made me think of another thing.
Hmm.
I think one of my other curiosities, and I'm thinking about stuff that, Lori, we've talked about before with like Vanessa, or where we were looking at like, not just like San Antonio's Good Sam, but also some of the data governance and sharing possibilities. Like unless someone's being the convener across those parties, we don't know, like, I just think that space for exploring those opportunities more hasn't happened, like where we know the fire department has the Chulada system. They have certain like data governance and sharing that happens with like family children's for case management, but then you simultaneously have like, you know, separate data systems when it comes to coordinating care or emergency response or all sorts of other things, or I think back to again like hospitals where they're often seeing like police, fire, hospital, EMSA are all seeing those same X number of people and what it takes to get to actually convene them around
Right.
data sharing. Like we've wanted to do that and it's like we got so close that one time we had even external partners that were willing to like fund intentional like convenings about it too, but like this could also be a good way to kick that into gear more because all of those entities.
Getting all those apps to talk to each other.
Yes, yeah, or at least be able to share, spit out reports to each other to help inform each other's work. Because they.
Take the silos down.
Yeah, they do, you know, they're all really collaborative and at the same time, there's just inherent silos, especially for some of those systems and responses and yeah, like if you don't have this good faith, even just the trust building that could happen to do data sharing and data governance discussions, it can be, people get really, especially medical settings are really, you know, understandably cagey and careful with their data. And that could be really hard, but it takes that relationship building to even get there too. So there's like, I don't know, I was just thinking through like, there's both like very like data-driven goals that you could make for something around this, as well as some of those more qualitative goals that could be interesting.
Counselor Jackson?
Yeah, I also think after our council discussion with the Tulsa Council for the Blind, I also think that with the ADA, that's a safety issue as well. And that's just something that we haven't really talked about since I've been on council a whole lot, is how that public safety aspect is going to benefit all of our community members. And I really think we need to even work with HR, HRC, the Human Rights Commission, because they have available data and they have a lot of information that would be imperative for us to be able to utilize for public safety measures.
Okay, anything else on this topic? No, thank you. If you have any input or more information, just follow up directly with the counselor or her aide. Staff, do you guys have
Thank you.
anything? I saw some, no? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned, and we'll be back at 4.